A man believes his marriage is perfect until he watches his wife drive away with her boss in the middle of the night. She convinces him that it is a work emergency, but things take a different turn when the man finds her boss tied in his house a few days later. "Come on, doggo." Peter pulled his dog's leash towards him, trying to distract him as he looked towards another dog in the park. "Come here, boy." Meanwhile, Peter's wife, Mary, rolled her eyes because she felt annoyed by Doggo. "I came here to get some fresh air, but this dog is getting on my nerves," she thought. As the couple approached the other end of the park, Mary felt someone tap her shoulder. When she turned around, she was surprised to see her boss standing behind her. "Oh, hi," she smiled at him. "Peter, meet Kevin, my boss." "Hi, Kevin." Peter shook his hand with his wife's boss, while Doggo sniffed Kevin's pants and shoes. "Nice to meet you, Peter." The 42-year-old man nodded. While Kevin chatted with Mary, Peter tried to pull his restless furry friend away from his wife's boss. Peter thought it was strange of Doggo to suddenly become so active near Kevin. He never comes this close to strangers. It almost seems like Doggo is familiar with Kevin's scent. Strange, Peter thought. However, Peter only thought about it later that night. Sitting at the dinner table with Mary, he recalled what happened at the park. "Don't you think Doggo was acting strange near your boss?" he asked. "I mean, how he was sniffing Kevin was not normal." "Really?" Mary frowned. "I don't think he was acting strange. Doggo always becomes restless whenever he sees a new person at the park." I don't think so," Peter said while scratching his furry friend's head. "Anyway, I am going to the grocery store to buy a few things. Do you want something?" "No, I'm good," Mary replied before she took a bite of her pasta. "Okay," Peter said as he stood up. He washed his hands and walked towards the door to wear his shoes, but stopped when Doggo suddenly started barking. "Hey, Doggo, what's wrong, my boy?" The 28-year-old man ruffled his dog's hair. "You don't want to stay home." Again, Doggo's behavior made Peter feel suspicious. There was something about Mary that Doggo seemed to find disturbing. He could see the dog didn't want to stay with Mary and assumed he knew why. Peter thought she mistreated the dog when he wasn't around. "Come on, Doggo, you're going with me," Peter exclaimed as he walked outside the house with his dog. Later that night, Peter was fast asleep when he suddenly felt his dog's tongue rubbing across his face. He opened his eyes and saw Doggo sitting right beside him. Confused, he turned towards the other side and was surprised when he realized something. Mary was missing. Peter sat up and tried to cuddle the dog, but Doggo jumped out of bed and wagged his tail fiercely while facing the door. "What's wrong, Doggo?" Peter asked his furry friend. "What's bothering you?" Instead of coming towards Peter, the dog kept wagging his tail while looking into his owner's eyes. At that point, Peter felt like the dog was trying to tell him something, so he left the bed and followed Doggo outside the bedroom. While walking through the corridor, Peter was surprised that there was no sign of his wife anywhere in the house. He couldn't see her in the living room or the kitchen. Where is she? He wondered. Meanwhile, Doggo led Peter toward the main door and barked while looking at the doorknob. "Why do you want to go out in the middle of the night?" Peter chuckled and opened the door. Only after he stepped outside the house did he realize where Mary was. He saw her sit inside her boss car, parked a few steps away from their home. Before Peter could call her name, the car drove away, leaving him shocked. Without wasting time, Peter went back inside his house with Doggo. Then he rushed towards his bedroom and picked up his phone to call Mary. "Where are you?" he shouted, pressing his phone against his ear. "It's a work emergency, Peter." "I didn't want to wake you up," Mary explained. "Kevin urgently needed my help, so I left with him. I will be back soon." Mary somehow convinced Peter that she left the house in the middle of the night because of work, but he stopped believing her a few days later. Her lies would have worked if Peter hadn't found her boss tied in his house the following week. The next day, Peter praised Doggo at the breakfast table while recalling what had happened a few nights ago. "He woke me up and told me you were outside the house," Peter said. "Doggo woke you up?" Mary asked with raised eyebrows. "Seriously? Now you're going to trust your dog more than me?" "That's not what I meant," Peter said. "I know exactly what you mean." Mary snapped at her husband. This four-legged creature knows nothing, okay? Stop treating him like he's your best friend. Peter and Mary started fighting at the breakfast table. They bickered at each other until Peter stood up and said, "I'm going to work the night shift today. We will discuss this when I return home from work tomorrow." Peter worked as a truck driver and often worked night shifts to make extra money. However, he took the night shift this time to spend some time away from his wife. Little did he know that he would come home to a shocking sight that would change his life forever. Peter entered his house the following day, looking forward to resting well in his bedroom. Walking towards his room, he realized Mary was not home. She must have left for work early today, he thought while entering the bathroom. After taking a quick shower, Peter opened the bathroom door and was surprised to see Doggo standing with a tie clenched between his teeth. "What's this?" Peter took the tie in his hands and inspected it carefully. "This isn't mine." At that point, Peter could only think of Mary cheating on him with her boss. Furious, he left the house and drove toward his wife's workplace. Upon reaching there, Peter barged into Kevin's office and threw the tie on his face. "Hold on. I guess you forgot to wear your tie today." Kevin's wife was sitting beside him in the office. She was shocked to see another man bring her husband's tie, the same tie that he had worn before leaving for work earlier that day. Then, Peter left Kevin's office and walked towards Mary's workstation. "I'm done with you, Mary. I'm divorcing you," he yelled. "What do you mean?" Mary looked at him with eyes wide open. "You'll choose Doggo over me? You'll believe whatever that animal tells you? That's insane. You will never understand what Doggo means to me, Mary." Peter shouted in front of Mary's colleagues. "If he dies before me, I will sit beside him holding his paw during his final moments. If I die before him, he will sit with me till I take my last breath. But you will be in bed with your boss." After yelling at his wife, Peter stomped out of her office and drove home. Meanwhile, Mary felt ashamed because all her work friends had learned she had been cheating on her husband with her boss. Moreover, Kevin's wife also knew he was having an extramarital affair. Upon reaching home, Peter pulled out a big suitcase and dumped Mary's clothes in it. He emptied all her cupboards and drawers, ensuring none of her belongings were left behind. While still packing her clothes, he saw her enter the bedroom. "Peter, please listen to me," Mary begged. "I'm sorry for whatever happened. Please forgive me. I promise I will never cheat on you again. I promise." Instead of acknowledging her presence or responding to her apology, Peter kept looking at the suitcase while packing her clothes. He pretended he couldn't hear anything she said. While Peter was shocked to see his wife beg him for forgiveness, he was unaware of her motive. It turned out that Kevin's wife fired Mary after Peter left. Mary thought her boss would take a stand for her, but he didn't say anything. As a result, Mary lost her job. She returned home and apologized to her husband, hoping he would forgive her. She knew she had no one except him and would lose the roof over her head if he refused to forgive her. "Get out of my house!" Peter yelled in anger. "You don't deserve to live with a sincere man like me. You're a selfish woman who never cared for me. You're a disgrace, Mary. No man would ever want to marry you." Peter threw Mary's suitcase outside the house and opened the door for her to leave. "Get out," he yelled, pointing his finger toward the open door. Mary had never seen her husband this angry. She realized it would be best to leave the house because she believed he could hurt her otherwise. Once Mary left, Peter slammed the door and collapsed on the floor. He sat with his back resting on the door and his face buried in his hands. Why did she do this to me? What did I do to deserve her betrayal? He yelled while tears trickled down his cheeks. While Peter cried, sitting on the floor, Doggo sat near his feet and looked at him. Peter felt like his dog could understand what had happened. Then, Peter stood up and went inside the kitchen. He opened the cabinet and took out a bottle of whiskey. "This is exactly what I need right now," he said. He kept the glass bottle on the kitchen counter and walked towards the sink to fetch a glass. Suddenly, Peter heard the whiskey bottle break into a million pieces. "Oh my God!" he gasped, turning around to see what had happened. It turned out that Doggo had jumped on the counter and slid the bottle down with his paw. "Oh, Doggo, how do you understand everything?" Peter asked while hugging his furry friend. "Okay, Doggo, I won't be a weakling. I agree alcohol is not an option. It's for the weak, and I am not one of them. A few days after kicking Mary out of the house, Peter started spending more time at work. Since he spent most of his day in his truck, he also took Doggo so they could spend more time together. Working double shifts for months allowed Peter to save money. Once he had saved enough capital to start his own business, he moved to another city with Doggo. Over there, Peter set up a small logistics company and hired 10 drivers. As his company's founder, Peter could spend the entire day sitting in his comfortable office chair. However, he spent most of his day driving in his truck with Doggo, working hard like his employees. Peter believed his dog was his only best friend. He didn't need anyone else when he was around Doggo. What can we learn from this story? Pets can help you heal. Besides telling Peter about his wife's infidelity, Doggo helps him recover when he is at his lowest. The truth always comes out. Mary and Kevin thought no one would know about their affair. They didn't know fate's plans would allow them to hide their relationship.